Hello friends, welcome to DK Misra classes. I'm going to discuss about the definition of the jurisprudence part 2. We have already discussed earlier the definition of jurisprudence part 1. In the part 1 we have covered the already we have discussed that the definition of the Jeremy Bentham, definition of John Austin, definition of Holland. We have already discussed about the three scholars. Coming to definition of Salmond. According to Salmond, jurisprudence is the science of the first principle of civil law. Here there are three essential parts of this definition we must understand. The first part is science. What is science? Identifications, classification and systematization. We have already discussed this part in first lecture. Science is nothing, the things which is identified, classified and systematized. So through the help of this science, we trace out the first principle of the civil law. What is first principle and what is civil law? Come to know about coming to first principle of civil law. What is first principle of civil law? It is the number one principle. It is a matter of hierarchy, matter of degree. Among the first, second, third, fourth, five, it is top. It is first. So it is most important principle. Other meaning of the first principle is top, most important, essential, cardinal, and it is a fundamental principle. It is most essential principle for the law. So this is the principle and this is the vehicle upon the law usually move one place to other place. So coming to civil law. What is civil law? Civil law is nothing. The law which is applied by the court of law is civil law. For what? For the administration of justice. Applied by the court of law for the administration of justice is civil law. And what are the civil law according to Salmond, there are three essential parts of the civil law which is applied by the court for the administration of justice. Number one, statutory law. Whatever the law which is enacted, codified version of law, written format, available in the black letter format, that is known as statutory law. Whatever the law which is enacted by the legislature of the state, that is known as statutory law. And customary law, whatever the law which is followed by my great grandfather, and ultimately to comes from my grandfather to my father, and ultimately I follow the same. That is customary law, and it may be enacted or may not be. Coming to judicial legislation. So judges also legislate the law through the judgment. So whatever the precedent of the judges and decision of the judges is also comes under the facet of judicial legislation. So civil law categorized by the Salmond into three parts: statutory law, customary law and judicial legislation. Coming to jurisprudence has been categorized by the Salmond into three parts. This is the most important part of the entire definition of Salmond. So whatever the category made by the several scholars, these classification are most important for the examination. Every examination usually asks the question about the classification. So apart from the Salmond, there are so many scholars classified the jurisprudence into two category or three category or four category. We must remember about the all the classification. Coming to the classification according to Salmond: analytical jurisprudence, historical jurisprudence, and ethical jurisprudence. All the schools of jurisprudence play important role for the enactment of legislation. So in lawmaking process, all school play important role. Once we try to understand in analytical school of jurisprudence exclude the absurd thing. So exclusion of absurdity, which is mixed in the law, by the help of analytical school. Only analytical school, through the analytical mindset, we can exclude the absurd thing and important thing from the important thing. So once we exclude the absurd thing, it is a pure law. So analytical play the important role for exclusion of such absurd thing, and historical school of jurisprudence equally play important role. Historical school of jurisprudence has past experience of the legislation, and it said that do not repeat such type of action again, because it has already tested or verified in the history. Therefore, historical school of jurisprudence play important role for enactment of legislation. Coming to ethical school of jurisprudence. Ethical school of jurisprudence talking about the particular ethics of legislation, whether the law is beneficial for the public at writ or public at large or not. What are the significance of such law? Up to the what extent it will be applicable and followed by the people. Therefore, ethical school of jurisprudence suggests some important suggestion to the enactment process of the or lawmaking process. Coming to next definition. So before next definition, we must remember the classification. We have already understand the classification of the Salmond. Salmond classified the jurisprudence into three parts: analytical school of jurisprudence, historical school of jurisprudence, and ethical school of jurisprudence. And coming to Bentham also classified jurisprudence into two parts: expositorial jurisprudence and censorial jurisprudence. Earlier we have discussed already. Austin also classified the jurisprudence into two parts: general jurisprudence and particular jurisprudence. It must be remembered. So you must remember all the things, especially the classification part. Coming to, according to Professor C.K. Allen, what is the definition of jurisprudence? C.K. Allen stated that jurisprudence is the scientific synthesis of essential principle of law. There are three essential elements of this definition. Number one, science, synthesis, and essential principle. Through the help of science, you can synthesize the essential principle. Similarly, once the cream upon the milk, through the particular process, separated from milk, and ultimately it is used for butter. Similarly, synthesis is the thing how you come to understand, how you come to know about the synthesis. Once you try to understand about the thesis or antithesis. Thesis is the idea and antithesis is the counter idea. So the thesis and antithesis usually clashes. Altercation between thesis and antithesis usually happened, or clash usually happened. If I have idea, someone has counter idea, and the idea and counter idea usually come through the process of clash, and the outcome of that particular clash is synthesis. So synthesis comes through the debate. Suppose the parliament, in the parliament, one idea has been put into discussion, and it is discussed by the every member of the parliament through the support and against the motion, and after that whatever the outcome of the discussion is synthesis. So synthesis, through the synthesis, with the help of the science, we come to know about the essential principle of law. So jurisprudence is the essential principle of law, most important principle of law, comes through the help of the science and synthesis process, and it is known as jurisprudence. So jurisprudence is the scientific synthesis of essential principle of law. I hope you like this lecture, and you can mail me up on the particular mail what about your feedback. Thank you so much for watching me, and thanks you for your patience.